Notice anything, my dudes? Spency boy back at it again. Hell yeah, dog. Got my new custom track, 125. I think a lot of you guys are really going to enjoy this here. So, two of the biggest, most requested things for my custom tracks have been A, make something easier. Good God, Spencer, we're not pro at MX Simulator. Like, give us something that's actually rideable, because usually I make a track that's built for like a 450, and most people aren't like, legendary pro Pastrana level on MX Simulator, so they can't even get around my tracks, period. So that's one thing, okay? And then B, people ask for making tracks that aren't so fantasy, aren't so out there, trying to make something a little more down to earth, a little bit more like you can actually somewhat perceive this track as being a real life track and having more of like a standard Woodland type biome vibe to it. So I've got both of those things in this track right here, okay? This is actually made for a 125, right? So not only is the track name 125, but the overall layout and the way the track goes creates a literal 125, and the track is made for a 125 on top of that, right? So that's how it all comes together. It's how the name comes together. It's how the track layout comes together. Everything's got kind of like a multiple sort of thing to it, right? So it's built for a 125. I would say you're going to have to be pretty on it on a 125 to get around everything, but you can still get around everything. That's kind of the point to it, right? So you're going to need to be on an RM 125 for sure. Don't be on some, YZ 125 and expect to really get around this as good, because it's not going to work out that well for you. But so it's built for a 125, so the overall jump distances and everything like that, and the rollers and some of the bigger jumps aren't quite as far gappy and stuff like that. But I will say I did make up a lot of that for that skill gap wise, just in making more of a realistic roughness. Pretty much every single jump face on this track has some sort of like jump, like kicker, or a little bit of roughness or a little bit of uneven terrain going up the jump face. So you'll notice that when you get on it, like it's like a whole different feeling track than a lot of other tracks out there. The jump faces are not perfectly smooth on this track. Every single one of them has a little bit of a different kind of like roller right before you hit the jump, or kicker or roughness right on the jump face or whatever. So it gives you that like more realistic skill gap in that sense. Even though a lot of times you're not jumping that far, you're still getting the skill gap because of the kicker nature of some of the jumps and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. But like basically, oh, you gotta love it when you little double crash on MXM. But yeah, I wanted to say, like, this is pretty much like made for a 125 if you're pretty fast on a 125, but it's going to be one of those things where if you hop on a 450 and ride on this track, you can get around it pretty well being like a amateur rider, right? So it's kind of like a 125 for a pro and a 450 for an amateur kind of track. So that's kind of more so like what it is, even though there's a lot of the jumps that are super easy and there's multiple line options. Damn near every single one of these sections has like a split lane dual 2-line option area to it, so it's not that difficult. If you're on a 450, you're going to have to let off on this finish line jump, or you will sky it out and over jump it by like 20 feet, right? You're going to have to let off there. Pretty much everywhere else, you should be fairly okay to be pretty hardcore on the gas on 450, but yeah, man, just had a lot of fun making this. Wanted to make a standard Woodland track. Oh my God, Spencer Turley making a standard Woodland track. Holy shit! I think the world's coming to an end. It's got to be like a dime a dozen. Like I've made maybe like a handful of standard Woodland tracks in my entire life, whereas most of these other track makers, like 99% of their tracks are standard Woodland. So, right, I always try to push the boundaries with the off track and making space tracks. And first dude to make a space track, galaxy stuff, alien, like literally not just like crazy, like literally alien dimensional trippy tracks and stuff like that. So I've done all that, but thought it was cool to come in there and kind of go for more of that standard woodlandy type vibe. Got a nice little lake over here to the left. Kind of played around with some of the some little statue and billboard objects and stuff. I didn't want to go too crazy with the off track as far as making it like 35 different kind of trees and get too crazy with that. I just wanted somewhat of a simple, you could say more so JGMX style off track or whatever, kind of that standard, not like too crazy, not too complex of an off track, right? I just wanted to make it a little more simple, a little more just easy on the eyes, not so dense, not so hardcore of an off track, even though it just being standard Woodland. But I feel like, it being a standard Woodland track, I made up for it unique-wise by all the different stuff I did with the on-track on this. There's so much here that you just don't see on everyday tracks, man. But this corner right here, oh my God, so much fun flowing that around on a 125. And just the way I built some of this roughness and some of the kickers and stuff, I think a lot of you guys are really going to enjoy just that difference of filling on the jump faces. Most people do not make tracks like this in MX Simulator where the jump faces, every single jump face has a slight little, not like a huge kicker on it, right? But just a little bit of a changing bit of terrain up the face of it. That one does have a little bit of a kicker, but it's a small tabletop, so, you don't have to be that hard on the gas on it. But 90% of MX Simulator tracks out there have a perfectly smooth jump face on every single jump face. So you're totally missing that, like, realistic. You guys know how in real life motocross, especially when you've raced on a track and ran some laps on a track, shit's going to get a little gnarly on the jump face. Not just going to be like a perfectly smoothed out jump face. So that's what you see on a lot of those like JGMX style tracks, some of those other standard Woodland track stuff. They'll have the most standard smooth jump face on every single jump face. And so I really tried to separate my track in that sense, try to make something a little bit different here. But multiple different lines here. You can go up the inside, and then you kind of have to go through a bit of a, like, kind of dip down right before the jump face section. But if you go further on the outside, it's just perfectly smooth, and you can actually hit the berm on the far outside. There's just, I'm telling you guys, it's going to be hard for me to even explain how many different lines you can hit on this track, but there's a lot here. Like, you can sweep up the inside, super smooth corner here, and then angle yourself down for the double down there. And you got 2 ruts in this corner, right? So, yeah, that was pretty fun, making a track built for a 125. I know a lot of you guys have been asking for this, standard Woodland in combination with just more easier tracks in general. So, that's kind of the road I want to go down here on next few tracks. The next track I'm going to make is going to be also probably more of a simple, easier style track like this as well. But, yeah, dude, I thought it was cool mixing, like, I got 2 different decals on the on-track, so it gives it a little bit of variation there. Kind of has that mammoth-y style almost feeling. That's what it feels like with the off-track trees. Standard grass, woodlandy, but then it's got the like, dark brownie mixed dirt in areas combined with more of, like, a standard dirt look decal, so it's got all that mixed together. So, like, I literally feel like I could make a mammoth replica with these kind of decals and these trees and stuff like that. Like, I actually think I could. So, like a really, really exact replication, I think I could do that. But, yeah, man, just some of these lines, these tabletops and stuff, like, on a 125, everything's hittable on a 125, right? But it's not to say that you can't ride on this track with a 450, you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of you guys are going to hop on a 450 and think this track is perfect for it because you're more of an amateur. That's the thing with MX Simulator. There's so many levels to it that it's hard to make a track for everybody. It's just hard to make something work for every skill level of rider. But I've noticed for me being more of a pro in the game, if I'll go in there and make a track on a 125, it seems to work better for most people on a 450, with me being on a 125 while I'm building it. It's kind of bizarre like that, but it's one of those things, like, you don't want to make it so easy that it's boring. You don't want to make it easy to the point where it's like you're over jumping everything and then bouncing off the bike. So you have to have some kind of difficulty to the jumps and some sort of complex nature to it, or it's just boring. It's just, it's way too simple going around the track. But there's a lot of skill gap to this track, like I was saying, just in the, the roughness, braking bumps, stuff like that. There's quite a bit to it. You can either go on the inside here, hit a little double, or just sweep all the way around on the outside, never let off the gas. So, yeah, and right here, obviously, like, one-of-a-kind jump. Spencer Turley, about the only dude that could come up with something quite like this. You know what I'm saying? So this is actually 3 different options here. You can hit either side of this jump face or go right down the middle, which has kind of like a whoop roller element to it. Now, this tabletop that's sliced down the middle cheese is pretty big, but you can still hit it on a 125. But I wanted to make that landing extend far enough out there to where if you were on a 450, you weren't just going to over jump to Texas and bounce off the bike, right? Like, I still made it rideable for a 450, but there's just a couple of areas you might want to let off just a little bit. But you got to be ringed out. I mean, I'm not going to lie, you got to be on it on a 125, but I think if you made your gearing a little bit more top end, top speed, you'd be able to hit some of this stuff probably a little bit better than I'm doing here. I've got more of like a supercrossy style gearing on this 125, so even though it is an RM 125, I'm pretty much ringed, maxed out, you know, max throttle in most of these corners to hit this stuff. I still think you could do it fairly easily if you had more of a like standard, almost more like stock gearing on it or something like that. But yeah, having a lot of fun making tracks again, guys, and this is just one little thing I got going. Obviously, the track link will be down below in the description as always, but I apologize for the trees not really showing up all the time. That has to do with your graphics and certain things that you have set up in certain ways that some billboards look. It's going to be a little bizarre seeing it in third person. I think everything looks... I build my tracks based around riding in first person, so you know, if you see something that looks a little weird in third person, that's because I didn't even build it in third person to look like that in third person. You see what I'm saying? So it's made around first person, so that's just what I've always done with all my tracks. So yeah, man, just try to make something cool here. It was fun kind of changing up. I know it sounds weird making a Woodland track is changing it up, but I'm telling you, it is certainly changing it up for Spencer Turley. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, man, just having fun, just wanting to give some stuff to the fans and the community of MX Simulator. I love doing this stuff, man. This is what started me. This is what I get the most joy out of. It honestly is. And every time I make something like this, it was crazy, that process of like, I had basically the whole layout of this track down, right? Like I went in there and kind of drew out the 125 layout and all that. And then I kind of made the on track, made some of the elevation, kind of had that going. And then I just sat down and I was like, man, it's always so tough going from that where you have your on track made, but then trying to come up with the off track. It just can be such a wall sometimes when you're making tracks on MX Sim. It can be such a hard thing to get over. But I just sat down, right, and I put Dead Mouse strobe on in the headphones and just sat there for like another 7 hours straight and just built every bit of this off track right here, and it just came together, bro. You know, it's crazy when you've got all your on track built, right, and then you just got that standard basic green tile map everywhere else, and you're like, where do I even start? You know, it's like so hard to come around to making the off tracks. You got to figure out what trees you're going to use, what billboards, if you're going to have water ponds, you know, how are you going to do it all? And it's crazy how you just sit down, you start working on it, you start doing it, and you wake up 7 hours later and you get a masterpiece, man. It's crazy. You get something really cool. You're like, man, I'm actually proud of that. Like, that's actually pretty cool, like how all that came together. And so that's pretty much what happened here, man. I just dead mouse strobed it out, if you will, and came up with all this. So yeah, it can be tricky trying to make that standard Woodland without going overboard with it. You know, I could have went more deep with the billboards and more like little log and rock objects, but I just wanted to keep this one more simple, guys. I honestly did. I just wanted to kind of make more of a standard MX Simulator track. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but that's really, it's very standard on the look of it in the off track. Like, it's super standard, but when you actually get on the on track and see how many different line options there are and the way the jump faces actually feel super unique on this track, you'll realize it's not just an everyday MX Simulator track when you actually get on it. But yeah, guys, I appreciate all the support. You guys have been doing a lot for me here. We're at 11,000 subs now, so we're going to keep pushing on that. I've been working every day on this stuff. Just like I said, Spencer Turley 2.0, man. We ain't stopping anytime soon, man. We're still hard on the grind. I'm just now almost like 2 months of that every day, putting in work, grinding it absolutely out to the maximum. And I'm to the point now where it's like everything's starting to flow a little bit better, right? Like everything's... like my body's getting used to just working insanity amounts of time on stuff and every day, never taking a day off, never resting, just going all in on it. My body's starting to get used to it now, and I can actually really start doing things, right? It's hard. Anytime you start doing anything every day, it's going to be hard the first couple months because your body's not even used to it. So it's kind of what I'm going through right now and just trying to, get all that figured out. But yeah, nice little finish line double here. You certainly don't want to come up short on that one. That'll break your legs off without a doubt. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy more of a standard Woodland design. I know a lot of you guys were asking for it. A lot of you guys were wanting it. I'm not actually riding on the 450 in this gameplay, obviously. It's just a 125, but if you get on that 450, I have rode on this track with a 450, and there is some insane lines you can hit, like absolutely like whoa style lines that you would never expect to be able to hit on this track. Next level style lines and stuff. But like, I'll get up here to this one section, kind of explain one of the areas here. But yeah, guys, just want to make something a little more easy, a little more fun, a little more just get aroundable track, right? So what you can do here, you can go all the way around the outside on a 450 and hit that outside jump there. And typically you would just jump on top of this tabletop, right? Even on a 450, typically you would just jump on top of this tabletop on the outside. But if you rail it absolutely perfectly, I swear to God, you can jump plumb over this tabletop here. And once you guys get on the track, you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll see like the distance and how hard this shit is to actually hit. You can actually jump all the way over that tabletop, basically skip the whole first section if you hit that outside wide ass open on a 450 and carry all that speed through, and then hit this all the way down, right? You're not going to even be landing at the tippy top of this slope here. You're going to be landing all the way down. But right here, you got multiple options. You hit it any of these inside ruts or go all the way around the outside. Kind of tried to show that with the decals there on, where the off track and all that was. Multiple lines here. Got a bit of an uphill section. That was a perfect 125 slide in the rut and come out of it. Check this out. Like on the brakes, skirt, on the gas, get around that puppy, boy. Hell yeah. So, yeah, either way, guys, don't forget, you can go follow me up on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Steam, all that kind of stuff. My name is just Spencer Turley, no space, no capital, and I'll add you back on that. Obviously, donation link down below if you want to do that. No problem at all if you don't want to do that. Just letting you guys know it's there. And yeah, this is just another Spencer Turley track, man. Another one to add to the list, but I think you guys will have a lot of fun on this. I think some of you guys that are kind of frustrated with a lot of my fantasy stuff and huge jump tracks, this will be a very refreshing change for you. So, I want to expand upon this and really show people what I'm capable of making on tracks, because I don't think I've really shown my full capabilities on some standard Woodland stuff, more easier design stuff. I am capable of doing it. I've been more on the building the fantasy crazy cool, like never seen in a motocross game type stuff, so you haven't really seen that out of me. But I really, really do want to work into that and start doing more of that. So yeah, guys, either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes. Don't forget, all my custom tracks are on a playlist on my front page. If you want to go look at all of them, pretty simple. It's the very first playlist. When you go click on my channel, it's right there. All of them are there. Nice, neatly ordered, and you can go see every single custom track I made on MX Simulator. So